And then there's continued air monitoring, because it's not just a one-time thing. They want to keep going. They test in regular intervals, whether it's every hour, every few hours, until the threat is gone, until they can at least confirm, hey, this air is good.
And depending on how far that travels, I mean, that's a question, right? Like, just depending on how far that chemical plume travels, that air will have to be tested as well.
Oh, I think so, yeah. Well, Caroline and I were just talking, so we've got about a kilometer or so up in the atmosphere, so, mile and a quarter at this point, we've got what's called an inversion. So an inversion basically means as the temperature goes up, usually it cools as you go higher in the atmosphere, right? Makes sense, but sometimes it creates an inversion, so it almost is like a Tupperware lid. So when we get a chance to take a wider snapshot, you'll see as that plume is going up in the sky, it just kind of hits almost like a lid and then just flattens out at that point. So kudos to her to find on that, because so that goes to your point, Sophia. If that's hitting a lid instead of just going straight up, right, which will dissipate it as it gets into the stronger winds, you get higher and higher in the atmosphere, the winds get faster and faster and faster, it's now just spreading out laterally. So if it's spreading out laterally, then eventually, as some of the more dense chemicals and elements of that fire, right, like ash in particular, is super dense. Exactly, it starts to fall. So that may be affecting areas along, Langham Road or Langford Road, for example, or Cummings Farm Road. I think I was reading up near Goodrich there. So those areas in particular, would really want to make sure that you're very careful with that. Not only that, but you've got the Trinity River, which is just north of there as well. So that's another thing that you get some of these chemicals that are falling.
Not far
exactly, Lake Livingston. Although it's interesting, because I think that the lake may be far enough that if this continues with that strong south wind, it'll keep it a little further to the east, right?
Let me ask you a follow-up question, though. Just because it's, at least from this viewpoint, it seems pretty big. And with regard to the drought, dry conditions, is there any worry at all that this could spark a different fire in another location?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, no reason. I think that's why I was saying a second ago when I jumped on the Google Maps here, I wanted to see what does the area look right near this, and it looks like they've cleared out a good section. Maybe I would say probably. I'm just spitballing.
Hard to guess the acreage.
Yeah, I was going to say at least a couple of acres, it looks like at this point from what I can see. So my guess is that will be somewhat helpful, but obviously the problem is that if you've got some of the, embers that are still burning, that may be closer to the back end of where this plume is versus the front side, which is near FM 1127. If it's more on the back side of that, who's to say that those don't spark additional trees, and then just like we see in wildfires, once it hits one tree, if they're in densely foliaged area, they just hopscotch from tree to tree to tree to tree to tree.
Right?
Exactly. And so then the issue becomes, as you said, if you've got tankers up there that have to use 1127 because that's the only access road there, well, your next shot is to go 3 miles up the road, and then you got to try to catch it from that side, right? So, I mean, we're not talking about an area here that has many access roads. This is a very rural part of the county up there around Lake Livingston. And not only that, but I know this is hard to see because we've got the split screen on it there, but if you look just to the east, okay, again, so we're looking basically west-southwest from where the camera's position is at this point. So it's actually sort of due west almost. So you see the wind. Basically, think if you can kind of picture it in your mind, create arrows and basically run it from right to left. That's the south wind. So you see how it kind of picks it up and then just kind of transports it at that point? Well, if you also see, there are 1, 2, 3, I counted over on the Google Maps, there are 3 different farm properties just east of there.